15 minutes, I feel like I've ran a marathon. I hope you enjoy this video. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. This one's not going to be about oil stoves, but something I wanted to build since a while. Winter's coming here, we're in the fall, and before winter does hit, I want to build a sauna. So I looked online and I saw a lot of spas, they have these barrel looking saunas. So I thought, hey, you know what? That could be pretty cool. Looked at a few designs online, seemed pretty easy to build. I watched a few YouTube videos, so I decided, yeah, I could do that. So here we go. Step number one is to figure out what size of sauna you're going to build. For me, I'm going to aim for the 8-foot long barrel sauna. So I need 2x6x8. You could do it with 2x4, but I would recommend 2x6, and then the length is up to you pretty much. In the area here, I was looking at cedar. I looked at all the stores, Rona, Padvin Bouchard, Canac, and none of them had any wood. I don't know, there's a shortage of wood apparently. So I went to Facebook and asked if anyone has cedar. So luckily, in the area where I am, in Saguenay, Quebec, there's local people that cut wood, cedar from their property, and they can custom make the size and length I want. So I made an order. It's cheaper that way as well. It is going to be fresh wood. So we're going to see how this turns out. It's not recommended. Because I'm going to keep it outside and I'm going to build it this year, it won't have time to dry. So we'll see what happens. If it warps and cracks, so be it. I'll make a big bonfire. If it works, then hey, perfect. I could use my sauna. So let's get to it. So the next step I did was figured out where I install this sauna in the backyard. I did want it outdoors. I find it gives a nice little ambiance to the backyard. They do look good. You could decorate them, put a little name on the sauna with little antlers. They make it look Scandinavian. So what I did, I have a hot tub and decided right behind the hot tub where I'm standing right now, I have an open space which was never used for anything. So this was a good place to install the sauna. What I did is I dug about 8 inches so I could fill it with gravel, make sure it's nice and compact. I'm going to put river rock in there, make it nice and cute, and install the sauna on there. So you want to plan out your pad so that way if you do put stones around it, you dig large enough. So make sure you calculate if you want to do a nice border with rocks or patio stones. Make sure your measurements are right so you don't have to dig twice. So after getting a load of gravel, I use 3/4 inch gravel. You can start filling the hole and then compact it. Before dumping the gravel on your pad, it's a good idea to make sure it's compact. That way there's the least amount of movement possible. So now that we compacted the base layer, we can start adding our gravel, 3/4 inch. And we want to tamp it as soon as we put a new load in. That way it's going to be a lot more solid when we add layers. You could wait till the end to tamper it, but it's going to take a lot longer and it'll be less effective. So let's get to it. Some of you might think it's overkill to tamp it down that much. It probably is, but where I live, there's a lot of freeze and thaw cycle happening. So if you don't compact it, things will move, and I really don't want the sauna to move at all. So that's why I'm putting all that extra work. You could put patio stones and put the footings of the sauna right on it. I wouldn't recommend it because things tend to shift. At a minimum, I would dig underneath the footings. Make sure you dig about 6 inches. Put some gravel, some sand. Make sure it's solid. After 10 years, you know, you want it to be exactly where you put it the first place. Yeah, that's my inspector. She says everything is good. We're on track. Once you have your first layer done and compacted, you'll be able to see all the low spots a lot easier because everything's at the same level, or it's a lot easier to see. Take a look, fill the lower spots, make sure you tamp it down, compact it well, and then go from there. Gravel I got has a lot of sand in it, which is okay, but I think for the next load, I'm gonna go with pure 3/4 inch gravel, like I have around the hot tub. It'll just make it a lot quicker and it'll be solid as well. So that's what the pure 3/4 inch gravel looks like. So yeah, there's a big difference between the two. This one has a lot more sand in it, but for a base layer, it's perfect. We're just gonna build it up that way. It's getting dark, we're out of gravel, and we're gonna carry on another time. I would say we need 2 more loads of gravel, 3/4 inch. We're gonna try and get the pure 3/4 inch, not the one with the sand in it, just to pile it up a little faster. And then we'll go from there. Hopefully the wood will be ready. The guy who's cutting it is gonna bring it in 2 separate loads. So we're gonna have our fresh cedar. I'm a little worried because it's gonna be green wood, meaning it's freshly cut. So they just cut down the trees, passing it through the saw. And hopefully the wood does not warp. Usually wood takes about a year to dry. We're gonna get it built as soon as possible and put it all together. All the wood, delivered it at my place, so we're gonna go home, load it up. We're gonna specifically start with the end pieces of the sauna, so the 2 big circles. Each circle will need 16 pieces of wood for the size and design we're doing. So we're gonna load up a few spares because we do need some for cross bracing to make sure the circle does hold. I'll show you what I mean. And the reason why we're doing this extra step, I'm gonna have to load the wood, bring it to a wood hobby club, which I'm pretty lucky because we have one where I work. So I paid a membership, and we're gonna plane all the wood. All the wood that we got delivered is rough cut, which means it's actually true 2x4, but it's a little too rough for a sauna because when you sit down on it, you're gonna get splinters and it doesn't look that nice. For the end pieces, we're gonna have to do tongue and groove, much like a hardwood floor. That way we can connect everything and it's gonna remain pretty solid. So let's go home, load it up, and I'll show you what I mean.
So high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
So we started passing our wood in the planer. I'm gonna show you the after what it looks like. The wood's a lot smoother. We're gonna pass it through about 2 times per side. So always reducing the, I guess the thickness on the machine. That way we don't get any rough spots. Passing it once, we don't wanna take off too much at a time, you know, or else it's gonna overdrive the machine. So I'll show you what I mean by the rough spots that are left. And as well, if you do buy rough wood like I did, make sure you tell your supplier to cut even boards, like full boards, because a lot of time they'll give you the edge of the log and you're gonna get some sides that are not perfectly square, which can impact the build later on. So here, I'll show you what I mean. There's one here that I found, and as you can see on the edge here, it's not perfectly square because that's where the bark was. So make sure you get fully square pieces. This one's not too bad. We could use it as a cross brace, but you don't want to have tons of these because you'll get some gaps in your build. So make sure you inspect your boards before you purchase them and pick them up. When you're planing wood, it puts a lot of scrap in the bag, so don't forget to empty them once in a while, or else you're gonna jam your suction machine there. So take the time to look at it. If it has a window like this one here, empty it out and then keep going. What we're gonna do now is take these 16 planks, because we're gonna use 8 on one side and 8 on the other for the end pieces. We're gonna bring them on the router table and we're gonna do that little tongue and groove I talked about. So we're using just a standard straight router. We're gonna put it 1/2 inch deep. And what I'm doing is I'm taking each board and I'm passing it through the router twice. So I'm gonna pass it through, flip it over and pass it through again. And the reason why I'm doing this is to ensure that the groove is gonna be dead center. You can measure it and just do it once, but I don't know, I get a little nervous and I really want it to be in the center, because when we assemble it, you don't want your boards to be you know, off center and all staggered and one popping out more than the other. So just make sure your groove is in the middle. Once we do the groove, the female groove, we're gonna go over to make the male groove, so that way we can assemble them and click them together. Much like hardwood flooring, same exact concept. It's gonna make everything stronger, watertight, sealed, so all the heat doesn't get out. I would say it's an important step to do, because you don't want to have gaps between your boards when you build everything, so I would highly recommend it. We are back in the wood hobby shop and we're finished doing all the routing to do all the grooves. However, the routing bit that we're using is a little too small, I guess. So what we had to do is put 2 slots on each side to do the tongue and groove. We're using a table saw to cut that away. So I'll show you what I mean. So what we want is the middle tongue to remain, and we want to cut the 2 on the edges away. That way it can fit in the other board beside it. So that's the tongue and groove we're doing. We used the router table, we put a groove, we measured it and just flipped the board over. And it's a lot easier to use the table saw to cut this away. So that's what we're doing right now. So as you can see, it cuts a little strip away, but you know, it's all good. It's a lot easier with this, it's just a lot faster as well. So let's get to it. beautiful weekend. What we're gonna work on today is building the two end pieces. So we just picked up some stainless steel screws, specifically 2" and 2.5". So it's as simple as assembling the boards that we did the tongue and groove with, putting some cross members perpendicular to the boards. We're gonna use our 2x6s. We might cut them a little narrower. Some people use 2x4s. You can buy them in the store or just make them like we're doing in this video. And then we're gonna have our two end pieces all squared up. And then we're gonna draw a string, make a nice circle, and use a jigsaw to cut them round. So we'll see how long it takes and what the result is today. That's probably all we're gonna have time for today. And then once we get our specific router bits in from Amazon, we can work on building the planks for the barrel to go all around, and I'll show you that step as well. So let's get building today. When you're assembling your boards for the end pieces, make sure your grooves are clear. Take a look at them or else they won't fit snugly. So what I do is I just take a little chisel, break away the wood that's in the way, and then they fit a lot better together. You want to reduce the gaps as much as you can. That way you have a nice tight fit. It's a little too windy outside, so I'm going to come inside to explain the next steps. We're going to take our string and measure out 39 inches for our radius. And then what we're going to do is draw a circle on our boards that we just put together. And it'll give us a nice idea to see where the boards will align. And we'll use that to put our cross pieces, our cross sections, to hold everything together. And after that, we use our stainless steel screws, make sure it's solid. We're probably gonna put 3 boards. That should be enough. And then go from there. So make sure you keep the same string because you want your 2 circles, so your 2 end pieces, to be the exact same size. It's just gonna facilitate, instead of recutting a string, measuring it and everything. Exact same thing as the end pieces. Put the screw in the middle of the board and then reduce it by about, I would say, 3/4 of an inch to an inch. Draw your line if you want to follow the circumference, and it'll give you a nice finish. So I'll show you what I mean. So this piece right here is going to be the cross brace for the middle. So we're gonna have that circumference that we drew on here. We're gonna use a jigsaw to cut these cross members because it's just gonna be a lot easier like that. And we're gonna get a nice clean line that way. I think we need a new jigsaw. This one is, I think the motor's shot. Bad motor. We need the right tools to do the right job, so see you in a few minutes. We picked up a nice brand new Mastercraft jigsaw. This is gonna work a lot better. And we were lucky it was 50% off, so let's go cut some wood. The problem we're getting right now is that the blade is bending, so it's making a poor cutting line there. So after some trial and error, we figured out that a circular saw is actually your best bet because the blade is thick enough that it won't bend and create that weird cut we got earlier. So look at the difference. So we're gonna use the pencil and mark the other piece. That way the 2 circular cross members are the exact same size. It's just gonna save us a step in the next end piece build. So Yeah, use a circular saw, it's a lot better, and we're gonna use that as well to cut the circle, the end pieces. You could try a Sawzall, but I think the blade is also too thin to try and cut that circular shape. It's just gonna bend and cause awkward cuts. So yeah, try yourself. Let me know what works best for you in the comments. Our first end cap is complete. We cut it with the circular saw. The jigsaw didn't work like last time, so it was a little sketchy. I didn't film it. So again, what I found works best is if you do a rough cut around the circle with your circular saw, and then you go back and do the curvature. So I'll show you what I mean. Don't cut too close because the blade is straight. Once you take the edging off, you do the rough cut, then you could go back and make it nice and round. So for me, that's what worked the best. Maybe I don't have all the tools. Let me know if you have another method to do it that would actually work better. Today's another day. What we're gonna do is start planing the staves or staves right behind me. So we have about 51 for the build plan. We might end up using maybe 49 or 50 since these boards are pretty wide, so it's rough cut 2x6. We're gonna pass them all through the planer. We're only gonna do it once per side. Yesterday we did the end caps and we passed it through the machine twice. But honestly, I don't really think it made much of a difference. Cedar's pretty soft wood, so you could take off a good layer at a time. Yesterday, we did pass it through the sander behind me here, so it made the boards nice and smooth. But yeah, today, we're gonna focus on that, plane the wood, get going on that. So, yeah. All our wood is now planed, the sides, the end pieces and everything. We didn't have the proper routers to do the half moon and the moon, the male and female part. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna bring all the wood home because I can't leave it at the shop here. I'm gonna order the right bits and then I'll just bring back the outer pieces of the sauna and pass it through the router table. So here's what all the wood looks like. What we're gonna do is, I have a few planks left. I have about 8 of these, and I marked them with a black mark here. Because what happened is when we cut the tongue and groove, I screwed up a few pieces, so I just marked them as scrap. And we're just gonna take 2 of these, put them on top of each other, and use those as the base support or the legs for the sauna. It's gonna avoid putting a bunch of little pieces of wood together, glue them and everything. So it's gonna save us a lot of time and effort. So we're just gonna do that. With the little pieces, I'm not sure, maybe we can use them for the benches or something like that. So we'll see, but that's the plan for now. Ooh, that's not good. Exciting day today. We got our 2 router bits from Amazon. So the first one here is the Freud bull nose. It's called the round nose bit. So as you can see, it'll cut 1.5 inch wide. So that's the blade there. And 1.25 inch deep. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the back of it here, but that's kind of what we're looking for.
And then we have the bigger one here, which is the bullnose radius bit by Kempston. So it's a 3/4 inch radius with a 1/2 inch shank. So both are 1/2 inch shank. That's the part that you put into your router machine to make it spin. So that's what this one looks like. And that is to cut pieces that go around and make the barrel portion. So we're gonna start cutting those this week. I'm gonna put the links of these products in the description below. I did do a search on internet and Amazon was the cheapest that I could find. I've read some reviews, people who did saunas, and they said, you know, it's high quality and that they worked really well. So we're gonna see how it works for us, but it is exciting because that's one of the big steps to the sauna build. We are back at the shop with all the wood behind us so you can see the cedar planks. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna use the router bits and start doing the bullnose on the edges of the planks, which will be used for the outside of the sauna, so to do the actual barrel. And what we're doing now is we're gonna cut them all the same length. That way it'll be a lot easier for the build. So what I did now is I just put all the pieces together. You can see behind me here, I lined them up with the edge of the table. And when I go on the other side of the table, I can see what the shortest piece is. So I'm gonna try and match the shortest piece so we make the most use of the wood. So I'll show you what the one side is, which we aligned all the pieces, and how we're gonna try and spot the shortest one. So I could have measured every piece, but I thought this method would be a little quicker. So let's see if it works. So you can see here, I just lined up all the pieces. I used a mallet just to line up the table. You could just use anything that's straight that you have at home. And then when you go on the other side, we're gonna see if we can spot it together. So you can see all the pieces are different lengths. So I'm just gonna go down here, and we already see a nice big void in here. So I think this piece is probably one of the shortest. Maybe along with this one. So I'm just gonna measure two pieces out. We may have a third one. So we have 3 candidates here. I'm just gonna measure those 3, and it's gonna save us a lot of time. So I had to lay them out on the table anyways. So it was kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I guess. We found our shortest piece, which is right behind me on the saw. So we're gonna make sure both ends are square. I'm gonna cut off about 1 inch, just make sure it's nice and straight. I'm gonna build some kind of guide, and then we're gonna pass all the pieces through, the ones that are behind me here. And once we do that, then we can start doing the router. There's a really weird noise in the shop, but we'll ignore it. So once we cut them all the same length, we can pass them all through the router table, and we're gonna be ready to put the slits in it after, the 2 slots there. That way we can fit these boards nicely in the end pieces. And we're gonna try and get the footings done as well while we're here. So we'll see if we can do all that today. I'm pretty lucky in this shop because I can use one of the machines as a guide to make sure all the pieces are the same length. So what I do is I just cut the one end with the miter saw as seen over here. So I make sure that this end is nice and square, and then I push the piece and butt it right against this machine here. So all I did is moved it a little forward to match that shortest piece, and this way we know all of our pieces are going to be the exact same length. If you are cutting your planks and you do get one that's shorter than what you measured, you have 3 options. Number 1 is that you cut all your pieces, you really find your actual shortest one, restart all the cuts. Second option is you keep that short piece as a backup. It could be an extra or used as scrap or something. And option 3 is you build your sauna with that one short piece and it's just gonna look like crap. So just to do a final check to make sure our measurements didn't shift, we just piled them up nicely and did a quick visual check to make sure everything aligns nicely. And after that, we're gonna start passing the boards through the router. So we're gonna start with the bullnose router bit. So this bit here is very dangerous. So we're not gonna do one pass. We're probably gonna do multiple passes. This is what the bit looks like. And this is what the biggest one I could find in the shop looks like. So you can see the size difference. It's gonna eat away quite a bit of material. So safety first, make sure your machine is all nice and tight because this thing, when it spins, it's scary as hell. I'm just gonna show you quickly. Yeah, it scares shit out of me. So yesterday we did the bullnose here. Today we're gonna take our bullnose bit and cut in like a female end. And then we're gonna cut in a slit here, probably 1/2 inch deep, as well one over here. And that's what our end piece is gonna fit in. So it's gonna make a nice fit, and then we can start building. We're gonna put this in. Make sure that line is there. I also went to the store today and picked up some wood glue. I didn't know they make outdoor wood glue, but because it's a sauna and it's gonna be outdoors, I mean, why not, right? So since we're gonna be here for a few hours today, I decided to build the supports. So I took 4 pieces of scrap that we identified, and I just passed them through the table saw, made sure the ends are nice and square. And we're just gonna build them up because a 2x6 is a little too short if we wanna cut a nice curvature in it to support the sauna. 2x10 is probably ideal, but I didn't have any 2x10 cedar, and the person that wanted to sell me some, he wanted almost $100 for a piece of 2x10. So I said, you know what, I have scrap wood anyway, so we're just gonna glue 2 together with that awesome outdoor glue we got. Then we're gonna cut them to size. So for this, you wanna make sure you have enough clamps. So I have 3 clamps for the bottom, and once I have the glue on the pieces, I'm gonna put 2 clamps on top. At the end, we can pass them through the planer if we need to make them nice and smooth. So I'll show you what the setup looks like, and then we'll get started. So there's 1 clamp, 2 clamps, and then 3 at the end there per piece. And once I put the glue, I'm gonna add 2 more clamps on top, so I have them ready right here, 2 per piece. And we're just gonna come in the middle, put the clamp on top of here, and another clamp on top of there. We're gonna let that dry while we cut the bullnose, and then they should be ready in a few hours. When you tighten the clamps, you want to go gradual. So you don't want to tighten one end super hard and then go to the next. So it's kind of like putting a tire on a car. You want to do it gradual, keep moving around to make sure there's even pressure applied everywhere. And that's what it looks like with all the clamps. So we're gonna let that dry for a few hours, and then we can start cutting our groove in there, and this will be our support for the sauna. So we're back another day building the sauna. The last step we did was we went to the wood club and cut our pieces of wood, including the footings, which I'll show you later, and the pieces that go all around the sauna, so these right here. We passed the router, made some nice grooves, all that worked well. But then I ran into a major screw up, and I realized it was a little too late. So what happened is I adjusted the table saw to make the grooves right here, so that way we can fit them right into the end pieces. So I started making these grooves, everything was sized. I had to put every piece of wood twice because we had the grooves on both ends, as you can see. I started realizing that this gap was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This gap here is actually only supposed to be as thick as the end piece. So the thickness here is what it's supposed to be. But what happened is the gate on the table saw was moving ever so slightly, and I didn't notice until I cut all the pieces. And I was going on the second round with the dodo blade, which is the thick blade that you can adjust, right? You can put a few blades together. So it was too late. I already cut every single piece of wood twice. And then I said, oh shit. I already loaded pieces on the trailer to bring them back home. That's how far I was. So I took everything back out, laid them all out on the shop floor, measured the gaps on each piece to see what my minimum and maximum width would be to make it look good from the exterior. So what I did is I measured 4 inches. So every piece now has this same length at the end, because when I put it all together, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna butt the end pieces, the end circles, right against here. So everything will be the same size, or else it's gonna look stupid. In the inside, however, there's gonna be a gap on a few pieces, on about 20 pieces. So I thought, you know what, it's not the biggest of deals because the exterior will look good, which is the important part. And in the interior, worst comes to worst, I could put a trim, a cedar trim or something. I could use the scrap wood and just put the thickness of the wood and hopefully it covers the gap. You know, it is what it is. It discouraged me, but you got to remember the end goal. I picture myself sitting in here on a cold winter day, just relaxing. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Let's get building here. So the next step is just to double check our gravel pad. What I use is a piece of 2x6, an extra piece I had. I put a level on it, and I just make sure the pad is roughly where we want it to be. And it's a good idea if you put patio stones to lay them out, just to make sure you center your sauna as much as you can, because once we put the footings and get that all level and adjusted, the next step is starting to put our pieces of wood, and this thing is going to get heavy. So I'll show you what I mean. So this right here is my piece of 2x6. What I do is I put it on the gravel pad, just like so. And I want a bit of the piece of wood to go on the existing pad, because that's what we want to match up, right? We want to make it nice and smooth all along. And then I take my level. It's probably not the best piece because I cut a groove in it here. And we can see it's pretty much spot on. What you want to do is you want to do this a few times lateral, and then move your piece of wood 90 degrees and do that across as well. Do it as much as you can, compact it. You can see the gaps at the bottom where I have to fill in some gravel. So right there, a low spot. So it's a good way to really check everything. So what I did here is I laid out 2 patio stones. That's where the existing trim used to be, all the way to the wall here. And then I'm gonna add another border right here. So I just laid it out, just to find the dead center in between both, right here where the measuring tape is. So when I put the footings, I know exactly where to line it up. So for the footings here, they're each made in 2 pieces. Number 1 is this large piece. As you can see, it is comprised of 2 2x6s that I glued together with outdoor wood glue. And I cut the circumference of the 2 end pieces. I made the radius a little bigger because of the thickness of the wood that's going around the sauna. And I just screwed a piece of 2x6 at the bottom to act like a footing. And that is pretty much it. So I made one
I think it was the far back one, and I used that as a template for the other two. That's going to be the base of our sauna.
I thought about it. I said, do I just put that on the gravel right away? Oh, we have a national emergency. That's what it sounds like in Canada. I'm not going to read it, but it's for the province of Quebec. Okay, so that was just a test, so sorry about that. So we're going to make sure our footings are all squared up, leveled up, and then we're going to start putting our pieces of wood all around, which is probably the most exciting piece, because at that point, we're going to see our sauna starting to take its shape with the two end pieces behind me here. So once we have enough pieces that cover the two footings, we can start inserting the end pieces into the slits we created, and it should fit like a puzzle. So we'll see if we get to that point today and see our sauna take shape. All right, so this is what our base looks like. What I did is I separated the footings here. It's 25 inches apart. I just thought it looked the best that way. You could do it any way you want. And I put the first board here just to see if everything is level. So here we can see that's pretty good. Because it's a barrel, we only need to measure that side, the level on that end. There's no use to see if the other end is level, which it's better for the footings. If your footings are level, the barrel should be level. So just check this lengthwise after you do the footings, and you should be ready to start building. You can see here one of the boards that I royally screwed up here with the large gaps. So I did identify them all with a Sharpie, as you can see here, because once I build them, this line will be hidden. And I thought of it, so how can I hide these large gaps? So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna install them at the bottom, so you can see the difference. That's what it's supposed to look like, and that's the ones I screwed up. Because when I install the benches and the heater in the back here and everything, it's gonna hide that a lot more. If I put these pieces on the ceiling, you would see this big gap everywhere, and it would be a lot more noticeable. So as much as I can, I'm gonna put these screwed up pieces at the bottom, but it's already taken shape. So this is probably, I guess, the part that's most fun. You know, you can already see after a few boards, it's looking like a sort of like a circle here. Yeah, this is the fun part. So let's keep building. So I got the first end piece installed. It is a two-person job, so I do recommend two people. If not, build a little ramp like I did. I'll show you, because you don't want to snap the pieces that are hanging over the footing, because it is pretty heavy. So build a little ramp and just roll it over, just like the Romans did. Gotta be creative. So here's the little ramp I built. So I just rolled it up, and then it clears the pieces hanging out here, because as you can see, if all the weight goes on the end piece, you risk snapping it. So I did see the wood bend and I heard cracking, so I stopped right away and built this little ghetto ramp there. So that's what it looks like. Because it's going to be the interior, I decided to put the bracing on the outside, since it's the back piece anyway. No one's going to see it. So yeah, everything fits pretty good. I just have a rake holding it up, so I'm gonna have to be quick with the other piece. She doesn't really do too much. So yeah, I'm gonna cut a hole in the door in the front end piece just with a circular saw so I can get in and out. So I got the front piece on there, and I just put some braces at the top just temporarily. I didn't even nail them in. It just holds everything together for now. I'm gonna keep putting the pieces around there. I'm gonna screw them in, and then we'll see where we're at in a few minutes. Quick little update. I want to make sure my hot tub cover does not interfere with the sauna. It looks like we'll be good. And here's what it looks like right now. It's coming along. And what I'm doing for the pieces here, so the bottom few I didn't screw in, but starting about right here, I started putting screws, 2-inch stainless steel screws, as you can see, just to hold everything together, making sure that the front piece has no gap when I install them, just like this. So that way everything is nice and flush. So the pieces I screwed up, I'll show you. I put all of them at the bottom, so you can see this massive gap here. That was definitely not the plan. What can I say? They're supposed to look like this. So that's a good piece with the little gap, and the one below is the one that's all screwed up. So I put them all at the bottom. Hopefully they're hidden with the benches and everything.
we have to overcome and adapt. So that's what the back looks like. As you can see, I put the bracing on the outside just to make the interior look better. And for the front, that's where the door is. I'm going to cut out a probably 22 inch by about 55 inch hole for the door. And those are my two top braces that are just supporting everything, but it's pretty solid now. So if I grab it and shake it, the reason why I want to put a glass door is to enjoy this beautiful view, as you can see right here. So that's the exact view you're going to see when you're sitting inside the sauna, just like that. I cut a little hole in here. I could fit through it. I tested it. This is just temporary until I find a real glass door. And if I want to use it in the meantime, I could just cover this small hole up, fire up the heater, and enjoy it a little bit. So yeah, I tried to go as small as possible. Once I get the real door, I'm gonna adjust it. So for now, that's what it looks like. Gonna go eat and carry on. So hopefully by today we have a full barrel, and then we can move on to the next step. Got dark out, but I'll try and show you. I don't know if the camera will adjust, but here's our temporary door. And there's one piece missing up here. As you can see, when we put the pieces around, I guess one side was a little crooked, so that's why that slit there is not perfect. So we're gonna have to custom cut that. But that's pretty much what it looks like. Pretty excited to try it out. So it looks like from a little further away. Pretty neat. Another beautiful day in Quebec. So I'm gonna show you what I did today. I put two little kind of drip edges on the outside of the barrel. We're gonna use this to put the shingles on top, and it's gonna create a nice little, I guess, extrusion, so that way when it rains and the water falls down the roof, it's gonna drip there and it won't run down the wood, hopefully avoiding leaks. So this is what it looks like. I just took some scrap pieces and screwed them right on the outside of the barrel like this. And I did that on both sides. So the idea is to start shingling from there. So we're gonna start and go all the way up. And as you can see, we also cut our last piece here. We had to measure it and custom cut it. This one right here. The way I did it is all these pieces on top here were not screwed in. So I was able to lift all the boards and wedge that last piece in. So that's how I did it. And now that all the pieces are in, I screwed them from the outside. I went to go look for stainless steel strapping to have that nice barrel look. I couldn't find any. I could only find steel in the local area. So I decided just to stay with the screws. I'm not gonna put strapping on this because it is pretty solid. The boards are not going anywhere. So I'm not putting the steel straps. I'm gonna start the roofing today. I bought 2 packs of shingles, and we're gonna see how that looks once it's done. I chose black, make it look modern, you know, we'll see what it looks like. So here are the first few shingles on the sauna. Here you can see the line, but once it's down, yeah, I probably put a little high on this one. Yeah, you wanna cover these lines. And then the idea is to put the nail between the 2 white lines. That way, your nail is actually going into the other shingle underneath, so it just makes everything more solid. But don't worry about the edges. We can always come back with the circular saw and make this all nice and straight here. So just overhang it. This is a piece that I cut from the other side, on that side there. So make sure everything's straight, and that's it. I'm not putting paper on this because it's not a roof or anything. It's a pretty simple design. So I'm just putting the shingles right onto the wood using 1 1/4 inch nails for roofing. So yeah, they're galvanized, nothing too crazy. Just make sure you nail them pretty flat. That way you don't go through the other shingle on top once we put this shingle on, right? So we don't want the nail to be all crooked. So yeah, make sure it's tight in there. We're gonna do the same on the other side, and at the top we're just gonna put a nice finishing strip. So that's what it's gonna look like. Over time, these are all gonna become pretty flat here, so this one as well. I kind of redid it so I have more of an overhang. And yeah, that's kind of what it looks like for now. Shingles look like, so we ran out. I'll show you what the top looks like here. So we're missing just a few pieces to finish the sauna. What we're gonna do for the top is actually gonna put some top pieces that are actually used for roofing here in the neighbor's house. You can see that corner. That's exactly what we're gonna do for the top here, just to finish it off real nice. These pieces here, they're called I think shingle caps. They're made to be at the ridge, so the top end. What you want is to start at the front of the sauna, make your way back. So 2 nails per piece is all you need. And you make sure you hide the nails. That way if it rains, no water gets in the holes. So as you can see, we started at the front and we're just overlapping, making our way back here. So we're on the roof. I'm just gonna back up here. So that's what one of the pieces looks like with the 2 nails. So what we're gonna do is, sorry, I have to move everything with one hand. So we're just gonna come place it here. You can see these little tabs here at the corner. We just go and line it up on both sides. There's already holes in this one because I installed it on the wrong end. I started at the back instead of the front, so we're just gonna reuse this one and keep going. So I'm gonna flip everything over because we don't have much room to work. So I'm just gonna twist around 180 degrees and we're gonna finish off, and that's pretty much it for the top. Very easy, very straightforward. And that's gonna make sure no water gets into the sauna. Wah! Okay, so as you can see, the shingles here, they're overlapping quite a bit. So this is the backside of the sauna. So it looks terrible. We want a little overlap, probably about an inch or so, just like this, just to make it look good. So we're gonna go with the saw underneath and make sure all this is cut the same. We could do it with the X-Acto, but it's pretty hard because they're thick. They're pretty thick shingles, so I like using a saw at the end. What I'm thinking is just using the wood here as a guide, right here. So if we put the circular saw against here with the blade up and we just do a nice cut all the way around, that should give us something pretty neat. So let's see if that's possible and go from there. Okay, so plan A did not work because the shingles, yeah, like we can't put the saw against the wood because the guard is too wide. So what I did is I just grabbed my chalk line. I went around the roof of the sauna, and then I just snapped a line there so you can kind of see the shingles that overlap there. So we're gonna follow that line with the yeah, right there. We're gonna follow that line with the saw. And hopefully at the end we'll have a nice flat face there with the shingles. So I'm gonna use my ladder and we'll start cutting. So, all right, so I got my super LED light here
and we're gonna start installing the flooring, the bench, and the heater. So we'll see how it looks like in a few minutes. Okay, so here's one of the benches. As you can see, it's made out of 3 pieces of 1x6, the length of the actual barrel. And what I did, because I didn't want to see any screws on the surface of the wood, so that way people don't burn themselves, and it just looks more aesthetically pleasing this way, I actually put 3 brackets at the back, so you can see like so. So that's going to be underneath, that's going to be the underside of the bench. Now I have 2 of these. I'm going to make sure they're level on the wall, right? And it's going to come lean against that. So I'm just going to literally screw these on the wall like this. I'm going to select my height. So like so. And then, sorry, I'm trying to do this with one hand. So these small brackets here are going to come right on the side, just like this. So they're about a bit shorter than the bench, and it's going to support the 2 outer ends of the bench. Once it's installed, then I'm going to come build a support in the middle. So something like this, just to support it underneath in the middle here. But that's what it looks like. So we have the one bench here and the other bench over here. So it's a tight space right now. I got my little lamp set up here because with the LED it's a lot too bright. So I just blocked it a little bit. And I have my laser level. So we're gonna turn this bad boy on and select our bench height. There we go. And we're gonna see if we can actually align it so it's level. So it looks like we're not gonna move too much, but we're gonna come place the bracket, so that first support at the right height. So once we're happy with that, and it's gonna give us a nice level line. All right, so we have the laser level right here. It's beaming a nice level line on the wall of the sauna. So I'm gonna use this to put the brackets, so the back bracket here, the long piece over here, and the other bracket on the other end. And we're gonna use that as our guide, and then the bench will be nice and level inside the sauna. So that's what we're gonna do for both sides. And I don't really know what height we should put the benches, but this line here looks about right. So it's gonna look something like this, if I can get this piece up here. Okay, so our first bracket here is installed. You can see with the laser level, it's pretty good here. Everything blends in. So yeah, you want to try not to move too much or else everything shakes. So from underneath, that's what it looks like. So this piece is where the back of the bench will rest on. Don't forget, everything is round in here, so it just adds some difficulty if you want to make things flat. There's a slight tilt on this piece of wood, but you know, it is what it is. As long as it leans against it, we should be good. All right, so you can see we installed the side bracket here, so it is level with the top. I know it doesn't look like it, but it is the case. Same thing with the back side here. So we have to use the level for this side because the laser wouldn't reach to this angle here, but everything should fit. We're gonna put the bench up and see how it looks like. All right, here's a first view of our Vevor 9 kilowatt electric sauna heater. As you can see, it has 3 heating coils that are all shaped in little spirals or little U's there. So there's 3 coils. It does work on 220 volt. I'll show you all the amperage and breakers you need for all their models. But what we're gonna do is we'll just install this. And it says minimum 180 millimeters from the bottom point of the heater and the floor. So between the floor and the bottom of the heater, 180 millimeters minimum, so 18 centimeters. So we might put it a little higher than that, but so this is the back. What we're gonna do is put in a screw so it fits in here. Same thing with this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're gonna measure that out with a measuring tape. Make sure the 2 first ones are level, and then we could just measure down from there. So we want to make sure it's nice and square, so when we go hook it on the wall here, everything fits nicely. So let's get to that. So this vertical line is the actual middle of the sauna. So we're going to use that as a guide. As you can see, between the benches we have 32 inches, and that's right on the 16 mark. The holes in the back of the sauna are 10 3/4 inches wide. So we're gonna measure that and make sure we install the heater nice and level. All right, so we have our 2 screws here. So this will be the bottom of the heater. The easiest way to measure the next screws is to align the vertical line right here with this screw. And we measured the back of the sauna stove, and it's 5.5 inches height difference. So we just make sure we align this one because we know it's vertical. There we go, my arm is covering it. And we'll know to go 5.5 inches up, which is the exact distance from the top of this, because that's where the screw is going to rest, and the top of this one. So let's go do that. Horizontal line, you can see the 2 screws are nice and level there. All right, you can see the shine on that one. And we have this one right here, so we're just gonna go 5.5 inches up, put our next screw there, and do the same thing for this one here. All right, the moment of truth. I never tried it, so this is the first time on video. Let's see if everything works out. There we go. So we can do a final check with the laser level, make sure everything's good. Try and find a reference point somewhere. And it is looking pretty well. And there you go. Nice and level. All right, so before we dig the trench for the cabling, I thought it was a good idea to look at the wiring schematic. So it looks very confusing. I'm gonna explain it better when we go through all the electrical components. But this right here, Con 4, is the controller, because on our 9 kilowatt heater, we have an external controller. And this is actually where the lines go in. So N, L1, L2, because we're on the 240 hertz, or 240, sorry, volts, 60 hertz. And the sauna is actually in this square here. So yeah, it's very confusing, but I'll explain this a little more later. But this is important, and I'll show you why outside. So I'm no electrician, so make sure when you do install this heater or any electrical that you get a certified electrician. Do that at your own risk. I have no liability for you, so I'm doing it because I feel confident. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. But the reason why the schematic's important, I'm gonna get away from the hot tub here, is because knowing where the power line has to go in is very important. So if I didn't look at the schematic, I was thinking to hook up the wiring right through the heater, but I actually need to wire it through the controller first. Now, because the controller is gonna be in front of the sauna, that's where the power has to go. I just checked, I did a rough measurement. Good thing that the wire or the cabling is long enough. I bought it on Facebook Marketplace by some guy actually that lives right down the hill here, about 300 meters away, so that was kind of weird, but anyway. I'll show you, we got the trench made, and we're ready to put the line in the ground, the power cord. We don't have the breaker yet. We did order it on eBay, but that's gonna be for our next step. So this is where the power line is gonna come down. Now this is a breaker panel. I'm gonna install it in the slot right here.
Because it's 50 amp breaker, same thing for the hot tub. So this is actually the hot tub box. But the way I'm gonna run this is I'm only gonna use one breaker that's active at a time. So when I go in the sauna, I'm gonna shut off the hot tub breaker, turn on the sauna, vice versa. So in winter, I do run my hot tub, as you can probably hear in the background. So I just can't forget to turn it back on, or else I'm gonna have a massive ice cube. And maybe you could do the Guinness World Record for the biggest ice cube, but I don't wanna do that, so let's avoid that. This is the trench right here. Just, you know, grab a shovel. That's what I did. I had to use a pick here because the ground was frozen. So as long as it goes under the ground and it's covered, that is good enough. As you can see, we go all the way over here, and it's actually gonna come out in front. So this is the important part. Because the external controller is gonna be right on this facing right here on the outside, I have to bring the cabling all the way to the front. If I did not look at the schematic, I would have brought the power right to the back, which is where the heater is located. Now, if you do have a heater that does not have an external controller like mine, you can hook it straight to the heater and you have the control knobs in the front. But if you have one like mine, just keep that in mind because you don't want to do the job twice. So the cabling I bought is some, it's called 6-4. As you can see, there's 4 strands in there, plus the neutral, or the ground. You really only need a 6-3. 6 is the gauge of the wire, so it's pretty big. So I'll probably omit the blue wiring. It's just gonna hang out in there, that's okay. It'll just be loose in the box, properly covered off there, but that's what it looks like. So that's some 6-4 hot tub wiring, also called NMWU, I believe. So that's it there. It's gonna go in a pipe like this, 1 inch, and we're gonna run it right over here. We're gonna do that now just to place it. I don't have all the tools and breaker, like I said, so we're gonna wait out for that to actually do the hookup. But if we get the cabling in the ground just positioned, that's gonna help us for the next steps to come. So here is the temporary placement. I put the 1 inch pipe solid covering there just to make it look aesthetically pleasing, and it just protects the wire a little better. So that's gonna go up the box. Once we have the breaker, we're gonna use this extra strand here to hook it up. And on the other side, I'll show you, we have about a run of 32 feet of wire, and then it has to go up the front of the sauna to hook up the control box. All right, so it might be hard to see, but here's the wire coming from the front of the sauna. I might drill a hole just to make it come up straight, and it goes up to about here. So it's a good height, you know, to put the control box. And then from there, we need more wiring to go to the heater. And that should be it. So that's what it looks like. All this will be covered with patio stones, so once we cover the wire, patio stones will go over it, so it's going to be nice and flat. I'm keeping it exposed right now in case we need to adjust it, pull it one side or the other. There's no use in burying it now, so just do one step at a time and go from there. This right here is the external control for the 9 kilowatt sauna heater. If you don't have this, it's because you wire everything straight to the actual heater itself. So we're gonna see that in a few minutes. We're gonna open the panel and show you that. But for this model here, this is the unit. It is pretty big, but let me show you what the schematic looks like, because I saw a lot of comments online that said it was confusing. Bam, just like that, I took off the cover. So you have one screw right here. You just take that out and then you could lift the cover off. So what we see here is a bunch of terminals. So we have the ground, N, L1, L1, L2, L2, ground, L3, L3, L4, L4. It looks confusing, right? These right here are bridges, so they just connect the two together. As you can see, L1, L1,
L2, L2, L3, L3. This right here is to power a light bulb. So for this to work, you need your ground right here, the neutral wire actually, to be connected. Let's see the schematic and it's gonna make more sense. So this right here is the schematic that comes with the manufacturer. In green, what I did is I highlighted every component. So the green highlight is the controller. As we can see, it's Con 4. That's the controller model. It's also stated on your controller. So right here, just focus on all these confusing numbers. So we have our inputs right here, right? So power input, we're in North America, so 240. We have ground, neutral, L1, L2, right? So those go in there. You can see those bridges, the N, L1, and L2. So the L1 and L2 have those bridges right there. 1, 2. Okay, so let's just focus on the inputs. That right there, if I go to the controller, is exactly this right here. So everything on the left side. So everything right here. From our ground to neutral, L1, L2. Those are the bridges. So as we can see again, that's your input power going in from your box. For this model, because it's a 9 kilowatt, we're gonna put a 50 amp GFCI breaker because we're gonna throw water on the rocks, so just for safety. So that's the controller. Over here, we see the neutral and live, so that's for the sauna. So it's pretty cool because our input here is 240. And instead of running a separate wire for a light bulb, well, the controller already converts it to 100 volts through the N and the L, so the neutral and live. That's why we're gonna return that kit we bought to convert the 240 into a 110 volts, so that big wire we saw earlier. And that right here, the N and L, right here, is actually this orange tab right here. So if you do put a light bulb, that's where you tap into, right there. There is a notice, however, that the neutral wire is not necessary if customer do not install the bulb. So the neutral here is not necessary if you're not installing a light bulb. So you can ignore this one. So again, our inputs on the schematic, you would only really need your ground and your two, like your L1 and L2, right? So that's for the input. Now, what do we have in yellow? This right here in yellow is the actual sauna heater. So as we can see from the control board, remember that's everything in green here. So this is the control board. So we have a a ground, L3, L3, L4, L4, L4. So we have a lot of stuff coming out. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wires coming out, right? And that's just to control everything, right? For the inputs, temperature, timer, and everything. So you need 5 wires coming out of your control board or your control panel, which actually goes to your sauna heater. So your L3 goes into your L3, and then your L4s all go into an L4 slot. So what does this piece look like right here? This part right here on the controller, it's this part right here. So we have our ground, our L3, which has a bridge connector, and then our L4s. So we have 3 times L4s, which is those right there. So we're gonna open the sauna heater and actually look if this looks accurate. So we should see exactly this, a ground, an L3, and then those L4s. Now for the light bulb, again, that's that N and L, so that just look at that as a separate thing, which is that orange tab right here. So all this again is in the control board, see? That's why it's so big. Now, if you have your thermostat, which is this guy right here, right? So it's gonna detect your temperature in your sauna. It is recommended to place it right over the heater on the ceiling, so it grabs like the accurate temperature. In my case, I'm gonna put it underneath a bench because I like the sauna super hot. So I don't recommend this. This is just what I do. So because I do it, that does not mean you have to do it, but I'm gonna cheat a little bit. And again, if we look at the diagram, so the pink part right here, see, is the thermostat sensor. which also is into the green box, which is our control board there. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 going into 1, 2, 3, 4. Thankfully enough, they made it easy. So this wire right here, well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's already all connected. So for this guy here, if you go underneath the control board, you can see that green tab right there. That's where you plug it in. So I'm gonna zoom in. It might get a little blurry here, but, and as you can see, there is a side that has like a little half moon. So make sure you just input it the right way. And then on our actual plug here, you can see, so there's the half moon, right? You just plug it in the right way. And that's about it. So overall, it's pretty simple. To install this board, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put one screw up here. We're just gonna hang it off of there. And then we're gonna put one screw right in here and another screw in the other hole just to keep it very solid. So that's what the control board looks like. Let me know in the comments below if you have any confusion. I can maybe make another video just explaining this part a little better, but it is pretty, straightforward, I would say. So again, we have our inputs, outputs into the sauna heater in yellow there. Our light bulb, of course, if you install one, and the thermostat sensor. So those are the components with the control board. All right, so as we can see in the heater here, we have the L3 and L4s identified. So the L3 here is the one with the bridge, with the two bridges there. And then the L4 are these three on the right. So that's where we're gonna come and plug them in. We're gonna pass our wire through these holes here at the bottom of the heater. These should be enough. And hook it up from our control panel. Let me know if you have questions on this, but again, this is in the heater. If you have the control panel modeled, so the 9 kilowatt, it can be confusing. If you don't have the 9 kilowatt, you probably have these knobs here that are not working. So in this model, the 9 kilowatt with external controller, they're capped off because the controller does all the work. But if you have the knobs, you just come and wire everything up in here, just like the schematic. And it should be fairly straightforward. This here's the plate we took off the sauna. There's also a little schematic here. You can see there's 3 heating elements. So this again is the 240 volt North American with the control box. So they call it the Con 4 or the control box. So you can see exactly why we need 3 L4 lines right here, 3 of them, because each of them controls a separate heating element. So that's the reason for that. So again, just to summarize, everything on the left side, starting from the ground here with the neutral L1, L2s, all this here is the input from the house. From this ground to the right, so from the ground, L3, L3, L4, 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 that's what's gonna come out of the control box and going into the heater. And then this right here is just, look at it as an outcast. If you want to put a light bulb, you connect it here. Another day in the life of sauna building. So what we're gonna do today, I'm gonna show you what I did with the lighting situation. I realized on the control panel that I could hook up a 100 volt wire. So I'm gonna do that. This way I can control the light from the control board, and it's gonna make things a lot easier instead of running a separate 110 volt line into the sauna. And my initial plan, like I said, with the big cabling here, I'll show you. I was gonna install this bad boy for the 220 volt, put an actual outlet. That way I do have a 110 converted onto an extension cord, but after realizing I could tap into the control board, I'll show you the schematics again, but it's just a lot easier, and I decided to go with LED strips because I can control the lights, the colors, the intensity, and everything. I went for the waterproof silicone ones. Here's the box. They're made by Minger, I'm not too sure. What I'm gonna do is link everything in the description below, everything I use for the sauna build, so it's gonna be a lot easier for everybody. So let me show you how that went. So the kit I bought came with 2 spools of 5-meter LED strip. So those are the 2 spools here. What I did is, because this is just a temporary setup right here with my extension cord, but the actual 110 volt line is going to come down through the front here. So I'm not sure if I'll put it inside or outside yet, but it's going to come straight down. I'm going to try and hide it as much as I can. So it starts here. That's where the LED strip starts. What I did is I just took my staple gun, and the staples are actually wider than the strip. So I put it all the way at the back. And what I did, I'm going to show you on this side because I took the bench apart. I ordered an extra extension so I can hide the wiring. So it all feeds off of this control board here. That's the sensor. Right there, that black tip is the sensor, because it does come with a fancy remote so I could change colors and everything. Let me show you, because this is one of the coolest parts. If I want green, boop, everything goes green. If I want blue, you know, whatever. So I'm just gonna put it white for the video. So yeah, the extension you can see is plugged right here. I'm gonna hide it, tuck it away nice and neat there, maybe put some silicone or something. It comes all the way to this side. So everything's controlled on the same circuit. And there you can see a staple. That's where I started the actual, the run there. So same with this one, 5 meters. I start at the bottom. I just looped it around the back there. I used my, my chisel and just cut away some of the wood there to make a nice round corner. And it feeds all the way to the top here, and I just cut the end with a piece of scissors. Make sure you cut them where you see the RGB there, those contacts. And the finished product looks like this. So the bench actually sits on that support at the bottom, so I do have a nice gap. So when you sit down,